Hey, I'm Ciprian. I'm VP Product Engineering, and today I'm going to talk about the practices we have adopted so far for building and running the Mambo platform. So first, I want to go on the context, give you a bit more context and the challenges that we have. So our main scope as a product organization is to deliver top-notch technology that enable modern banks to offer the best, the most affordable, and the most competitive services and financial products to their end customers. We have clients all around the globe, in all the areas of the world, operating in different segments of the market, from daily banking on SMEs, personal loans, consumer lending, commercial lending, and many other areas. But even from the early beginning, we like the concept of software as a service, and we wanted to have a single product for account management with a single version that uses by everybody, that via configuration can be used in any scope. And this created for us internally, as an organization, the biggest challenges in terms of delivery, of running the platform, on ensuring perfect customer service that Mambo offers. But also, they are the main drivers that wake up us every morning to come to work. An overview of what I'm going to talk today. Initially, I'll go a bit in the past, from the early startup days until last year, when I'm going to describe the practices that we had back then, as the team was smaller and clients were different. Then I'm going to introduce you what we currently do as we speak, and how are we aiming to improve our way of working going forward to ensure the best services for our customers are delivered by Mambo. Good. So yeah, as for the background, how we started, it was 9 years ago, actually, like Eugene corrected in the morning, as a startup with a very small team. Everybody could do anything. Everything that we were doing was to move the company forward and grow ourselves. So the team started growing, and we needed to reorganize our teams. So we created dedicated teams that are dedicated for specific services that Mambo offers, or specific areas of the product. But we also took a decision back then that was kind of, let's say, involuntary, to create central teams, basically teams that don't deliver a specific piece of the product, but only offload part of the workflow. So basically for the product development or from the maintenance phase. And this offloading approach created, back then for us, for the people working in Mambo back then, lack of ownership. As people had less engineers working only on the product, has less and less understanding of what's happening in production. People that operate Mambo have less and less understanding of the new functionality that's being developed by the product teams. So ownership was a problem for us. So this is an example of a siloed flow that we used to have a couple of years ago, that we naturally evolved to it, and then we had to change it, where we had product owners giving detailed requirement to engineers then implement them, then QA, quality assurance engineers test them, another team releases them to production, and another team operates them. Although in theory, you might say, yeah, it involves specialization on a person, on an engineer. In practice, we had more negative effects than positives. I'll just name two of the biggest negative effects that we had back then. We needed to have long stabilization periods. So we were able to release 3 or 4 times per year with lots of features going at the same time, and we needed to have long regression periods, long testing periods. A problem of this long regression periods is that bugs, issues in your product are being found way too late in the stage. From our research and research from the market shows that a bug that's being found later after the implementation versus immediately after it or during the implementation takes you 50% more time to address it. So this is something that we needed to address. And also, when you find a bug, you usually patch the system. And you patch and you patch and you patch the system until you have lots of technical debt in your system, and you need to do something about it. As we had the central teams that were offloading some of the work, we were also able to release only a few times per year, like I mentioned. And we had a dedicated team doing that, so our engineers from the product had no exposure to the release process. What happened is that the code they were writing was not releasable, and it required downtime. So until last year, almost every big deployment we had needed 2 hours of downtime. 2 hours where people can't access our services, where end users can't access the service the bank offers. So this is not acceptable for our era, and we had to do things differently. We realized that we need to adapt And we have identified this year the root causes of all the problems that we have, and we started addressing them one by one. So this year, 2019, we started the process of upgrading the whole structure inside the product organization, way of working, practices, roles, architecture, and technology behind it. So one of the principles that we apply is principle of high autonomy, high alignment. I'm sure that maybe for some of you is familiar. And how we do it, alignment comes from us going in the same direction, working for the same goals, no matter if you are in different teams. But in the same time, from sharing knowledge, from sharing practices from one team to another, from sharing success stories, as well as failures. So when we have an incident, then we have a post-mortem, and then we share the outcome from that post-mortem to everybody in the organization, so make sure that other teams learn from that as well. And autonomy, in our definition of awesome, each team should be end-to-end responsible for their services. So they have the people and the skills inside the team to understand the things customers are trying to achieve, find solutions for them, deliver solutions for the customers, operate those modules in production, this in a self-contained contained team. So this is how we are achieving autonomy at the moment. Like I mentioned, we are upgrading now our way of working from scratch, actually even from the ground. Everything that we were doing last year doesn't work anymore this year, and we'll do things differently. One of the main pieces that we're working on is the adoption of continuous delivery. We didn't have it back then. Last year we started adopting it, which means that new functionality, any fixes, implementations that you have, reach production as soon as possible. So you collect fast feedback from your customers. Your customers enjoy those new functionality earlier rather than a bit later in the stage. As well as having the right test suites in place that run constantly and ensure the reliability of your functionality, including operational excellence, where engineers have access to how their services are behaving in production, can understand the user behavior, and find malfunctions of the system upfront before our customers notice them. So this is the principle that we're applying now for upgrading our way of working. We started by changing our organizational structure this year. Actually, this summer, we introduced a new composable leadership structure that we call. We apply the principles that we apply externally. We also apply them internally. What does it mean? One of the pillars is the product, the business side of Mambo. At the moment, we're transitioning from the more traditional Scrum product owner that's mostly focused internally inside the team to product managers that allocate more time talking to clients, understanding what problems they have, finding root causes, and then offering them solutions. Another role in the team that we had for 2 years already and has proven to be very effective is the role of what we call a system owner. A system owner works together with the team, offering them day-to-day technical leadership and guidance. In the same time, they make sure the architecture and the design of their services is robust, is reliable, and monitors in production the performance and the stability of their services. But, very important, they are working together with the teams. They are engineers, hands-on, working with the team day to day. And this is how they achieved, they managed to offer technical guidance inside the team. We also introduced the role of principal engineer this year, which is focused on more teams than a single one. Another role that we introduced a few months ago is the role of engineering manager, whose main responsibility is to ensure people growth, alignment, on of what that team is doing to the company direction, as well as execution of our objectives and improvement themes that we want to adopt. Very important for us is the role of Agile coach as well. Agile coach is like a Scrum Master plus, like an upgraded Scrum Master that spends time closer with the team, identifies bottlenecks, impediments in their team, making sure they are being resolved, monitors the team success metrics. And at the same time, they share with the other teams learnings that they encountered. And this is how we achieve, how we manage to achieve the 4 pillars that we call of composable leadership that enable all the teams to build and run reliable services for our customers. Each one of them with different focus, different specialization, but very important, they work together. In terms of practice, that it's mandatory for you to adopt continuous delivery. That has been massively adopted, especially this year and last year. It's called test-driven development. In just a few words, for those that are not familiar to it, basically you run, you create all the tests, automate all the tests before you actually do the implementation. You have the requirements. First thing you do, you write the tests. All the tests are failing because there's no implementation to back them up. And then tests are starting passing one by one, and when all of them are green, then you consider your implementation as being done. There are many advantages of this approach, out of which I'll mention a few of them today. One of them is coverage. So you make sure there are tests being automated. So if you ask a developer, and maybe some of you have an engineer background, to write the test at the end, most of the time they will forget to do it and just jump to the next feature, to the next one, and then you'll end up yourself with very low coverage on your automated tests. Another one is objective implementation. So make sure the feature that you're implementing delivers exactly what the customers expect. When you write your tests after the implementation, it's more traditional approach. You, as a developer, you already know the logic that you have implemented. And of course, all the validations that you do are based on the logic you have implemented. But when you do them upfront, then you make sure that you only have the customer view. And you automate all the tests, and then you do the implementation. And this offers also transparency. As for example, people like product managers can always access the repository and see the tests and go immediately to the developer and offer very fast feedback and say, actually, no, you're going on the wrong track. Let's discuss before the implementation is being done. So more efficiency. And the most important advantage that I noticed so far is the right understanding. Because engineers have a hard time understanding exactly what they need to do. But when they write the test themselves, they put themselves in the shoes of the customer, and they automate the scenarios, and they have very solid understanding of what they have to achieve, what the outcomes that feature should deliver, and usually also how to do it while writing those tests. For doing this, we have a testing strategy in place, where we allocate efforts on different levels. So we have unit tests that test a small component of the code. We have integration tests against concrete systems like databases or any other third parties. We also adopt behavior-driven tests where we automate scenarios, user journeys as well, including API tests where we test the API contract, API semantics, basically make sure that the API delivers what it's meant to do, and a few API tests, a few UI tests on the UI components to make sure they are working as expected. And this is also the pyramid shows how much time we allocate on each one of them and the return of investment that we take as we invest more in the lower ground. You always, so our scope is to get fast feedback. You always get faster feedback as you invest more in the lower part of the pyramid. Here are some stats on our current coverage. At the moment, we have more than 30,000 unit tests, more than 2,000 workflow tests, user journey tests, more than 1,000 API tests, performance tests, security tests, penetration, infrastructure, platform, and many other areas, UI, API, and many other areas that run before each commit goes into production. Each new code goes into production. The main scope of this testing strategy is to apply the principle: you build it, you test it, you run it. In software as a service, you create your own service, you test it. The clients should have no obligation to test your service. And this is what we also say to our clients and our partners, that it's our obligation to test our services to ensure, again, the reliability of them. But yeah, we still have problems that are being found in production, like any other software from the market. But of course, we want to have only as few of them and fix them as soon as possible. And to achieve this, we have adopted our capacity and our way of working, and we have introduced the concept what we call guardians. So each team, by rotation, has an engineer that has the guardian hat. So they don't work on new functionality, but they only operate the service in production, they monitor it, and they offer quick fixes, containment mostly, to problems that are being reported to production, and long-term fixes go into the regular team backlog. So in the same time, we manage to fight on both sides. On the one side, we ensure constant and fast reaction when something happens, reliability of our system. In the same time, we make sure that other engineers can deliver new functionality, new value to our clients. And none of them needs to have interruptions, constant interruptions, because if you're working in the future, then a bug pops up, you need to drop your work, and that's expensive. I mentioned before, at least 50% more expensive. Going forward, in Mambo, we believe a lot in collaboration and in ownership. Each team being tasked to taking care of their own services. They know better what they have to do. They know better what agile methodology to apply. We have teams that they have the freedom to choose their methodology. Most of our teams are working in a Kanban flow. A Kanban flow that offers dynamism of your things to do. So basically, you don't have fixed iterations, just a flow of things to do for engineers that comes in your backlog, and once they are done, they go to production. But we also have teams that are doing Scrum with iterations that maybe it's familiar to you, where you have fixed iteration, you plan those 2 weeks, then you execute on them. And teams that are doing a hybrid between them, called Scrumban. Well, they also have some iterations, but also the dynamism on the incoming flow of to-do. But this is a way how to structure your work. Most important are the ceremonies that bring value. So we have three of them actually, including the daily stand-ups, that we recommend to people to do. We have retrospectives. Every 2-3 weeks, people look back and understand what happened, celebrate their success, and also get learnings, failures, and find solutions to work on them. And one of them is the collaborative refinement sessions. So this is where I think we're also a bit more innovative than other people in the market, where we apply the principle, a way of doing refinements called specifications by examples. So basically, product managers, they gather the team, and instead of coming with detailed requirements, they come with examples. So I would like having this, giving this, having that, I would like to achieve something like this. So they give concrete examples based on which, together, the product managers and the team, they collaboratively create the final specifications. And this gives engineers better understanding on what they have to achieve going forward. Also, in terms of collaboration, if you enter our office in Yash or in Amsterdam or in Berlin, you rarely see a person working alone at a computer. So we apply a lot of pair programming, where 2 people in the same time work in the same station on the same feature. Basically, how they do that, there is many ways to do it, but we keep it simple. There is the role of driver. One of the engineers is the driver, writes the code, has the keyboard, writes the code, and the other one is the navigator. Gives instructions to the driver what to do next, reviews the code as it's being implemented, reviews the functionality. So this way offers very fast feedback to the driver. And for the navigator to not get bored and look at some other person how it codes, they rotate that every 45 minutes, 1 hour. They rotate the roles. And although by simple math, you might think that it takes double the time for you to implement the functionality, or not double the time, double the efforts to do that, it studies from the market, from the international market, and also from our studies show that it only takes 15% more time for 2 engineers to do pair programming and deliver a functionality than if a single one would do it. But on top of that, you get 15% less bugs. So it's more efficient, and the solution that you deliver to your clients are more reliable. The upgraded version of pair programming that we started adopting mostly this year is called mob programming, or a mob of people. A whole team usually gathers to work on the same functionality in the same format. But this is we recommend it for people that have new team members, because it's a very good. You get all the advantages of pair programming, but in the same time, you do knowledge sharing with the mass of people in the same time. So these are the this is how engineers actually work day to day, and most of them are here in the summit. And you can ask them more concretely how they do it and if it's for them it's being effective. I tell you that the answer will be positive for sure. All this that we're doing behind the scenes is for us to collect fast feedback and adapt to it. It's what in the agile world, in the agile principle, is called as inspect and adapt. And the best way to achieve that is by continuous delivery. If we look at the bigger players from the market, not only from the financial industry, if you look at Amazon, at Google, at Facebook, and if you also look at our successful clients, like Flogger from number 26 just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, delivering more often to production makes you more reliable, makes your system more safe and more competitive. And I'll tell you why. Just to let's take for example the regular release phase. So when somebody plans a release, they give it a date, they fill in the work to be done until that date. Most often that day is being pushed because unexpected pops up, and then after a while, that whole bunch of things that you did, you deliver to your clients. And then clients come back and say, you know what, that's not what I wanted, or I wanted to do things a bit differently. What do you do back then? We had such cases in the past as well. So it's two paths that you usually take, none of them that are good. So one, you need to redesign your solution, which takes a lot of time again, and you lose time to market. Or you make your clients to use the solution as it is, to adopt their internal workflows and anything else to use the solution as it is. I don't find any of these two options acceptable, and you can avoid that by delivering very often to production. Once an implementation is ready, a part of the feature is ready, it doesn't need to be complete. You already ship it to production. You have all the tests in place, validate that you don't break anything. You apply feature toggles to hide it if you want to production, hide it from your users until actually somebody can use it. You can give early access to some people, and constantly adjusting to early in the stage to your feedback. So this is continuous delivery in a couple of words, but Pavel, that will present immediately after me, will give you way more details than I did in this presentation. Let me give you some stats of last year versus current year. Last year when we started adopting continuous delivery, and this year we're a bit further in the process, so we're not fully there. And we look at it from one angle. It's an angle that's called lead time for change, which means the amount of time you have until your implementation is done on your local environment, until the clients get it. So you have it, developers have it, and clients get it after a while. That's your lead time. Last year, as we were doing only a few releases per year, we had 37 days. So that functionality was sitting on our, marinating in our local environments, not seeing the light of the sun for at least 1 month, even more. This year, we're at half the time. And only from getting to half the time, with a team that's only a quarter bigger than last year, we managed to deliver more than double than last year in terms of features and bug fixes. And not only that, our systems are more reliable. Last year, we were spending 30% of the time on new functionality and 70% of the time on maintenance and bug fixes. And now we're almost at 50-50. Again, with a team that's only a quarter bigger than the one last year. So these are just some immediate effects that adopting continuous delivery practices, positive effects that brought to us as a company, but also to our clients. I want to, let's see what we're aiming to do next, because we have some numbers. We are happy that we have these improvements, but we're not satisfied about the end metrics, let's say. Most important thing we want to do going forward is increase our system reliability, making sure our system operates as they should. One of the things that we'll be investing further is on the release processes. So we want our engineers, every engineer, to release their own code to production. And for that, in our definition of awesome, when the code is being committed by engineer, automatically triggers the whole deployment pipeline, the whole continuous delivery pipeline, validates it, everything is successful, and automatically goes to production. Let's say something happens in production, falls back to the previous version automatically. This is what we want to achieve, and for that we're setting up a release team that doesn't release instead of the developers like we used to have back then, but creates for them tools and platforms to enable them to do so. Basically enables the team to do releases versus doing that for them. Another area where we'll be investing more is in observability. Until this year, we had our infrastructure team responsible for monitoring. And what we have now is very good monitoring on the infrastructure level, because this is where they had control. And as we speak, we adopt more monitoring tools in terms of tracing, of application performance monitoring, and many other areas, with the main scope for us to find any misbehaviors in the system before our clients or our partners do. And another thing that we want to achieve is faster response to incidents. And here we're adopting the process. Again, Pavel will share a lot more details. But we are expanding our teams from currently being available in Iași, in Amsterdam, in Singapore, expanded to Miami as well, so we cover 24/7 rotation. So when an incident comes, an engineer handles that incident during daytime, not overnight when that person sleeps, and quality of the containment might not be the best. We also want to grow even further. So as a result of us updating our structure, applying the composable leadership structure, enabled us to grow. We had a hard time. We wanted to grow even more, but had a hard time because we didn't have the right roles in place. So now we're investing more in multiple areas. We'll be investing in lending. As we speak, we have 3 lending teams. We're setting up the 4th one. And by Q2 2020, we'll have 6 teams in lending. So we want to double the lending in just half a year. And we believe we can do that in an organic way as well, in just half a year. We have one team that's doing mortgages, one that's working on revolving and credit cards, one that's working on lending underwriting, lending servicing, accounting, and as well as the new initiative that Ben mentioned, Product Factory 2.0. Another, of course, we'll be investing in growing our deposits and daily banking capabilities, where we want to invest in payments going further, but also in your ability to integrate to Mambu. We'll be redesigning our data collection, our custom fields, our notifications, and for that, we'll be growing the teams going forward. And also very, very important in the area of composable banking is that this year we have set up a new tribe that we call, it's a new department inside product organization called Ecosystem. They offer the Mambo process orchestrator and creates connectors that integrate Mambo with other systems. We already, in only half year, you've seen all the connectors that we managed to do in Ben's presentation, and we have many other plans for this year that will be available to you via integrated marketplace. So another department that will be able to grow. Going forward, we have, while changing our way of working, we also need to make sure that we do the right thing. Are we effective? Are our customers satisfied with what we do? And for that, we don't go that long and monitor, I don't know, hundreds of efficiency metrics and customer metrics. We take 4 metrics that are recommended by international companies, the modern ones, for you to show you the success of your product. One of them is lead time for change. The one that I mentioned before, the amount of time it takes for you after the implementation is done until the customer gets it. Of course, you want the time to be as low as possible, as you want to deliver as soon as possible to your clients. Shows you the stability and the effectiveness of the delivery pipeline. And if you do it right, you'll get fast feedback and you can adapt on time. A second one is deployment frequency. How many deployments of new code you do? The reason deployment frequency is so important, especially if you measure it from a production perspective, because it shows you how often you deliver value to your clients. Of course, deployment frequency should be as high as possible. These are agility and dynamism metrics, but if you only measure these ones, you might have a very fast growing team, but your reliability and quality of your system might be affected. Then you have 2 more metrics. Mean time to recovery. When you have an incident, how much time it takes for you to repair the system. Of course, you want to repair the system as soon as possible because you don't want your users to have impediments while using your services. And this is complemented by another metric, change failure rate. How often you have failures. If you monitor all of them and identify root causes for any of them, adjust your way of working, then your product will most probably be successful in the market. Let me show you how we're doing on these metrics. Just as a disclaimer, 2017 and 18, it's raw data as we weren't capturing those metrics by then, but still we managed to get some results. So, 2017, 3 years ago, we were doing only 3-4 releases per year, big ones, and a few patches to correct the big release. So each big release that we were doing was what we call a failure. We needed at least 1 week to stabilize the system. That's why our mean time to restore is more than 1 week. And but the patches, the smaller releases that we were doing, were mainly to correct to stabilize the system. This was 3 years ago. Last year, we already started adopting continuous delivery and release trains. We started to release more often. By the end of the year, we had our first new functionality delivered to production in a smaller release, without downtime, without anything. So our metrics got better, but still not enough. This year, it's an average for the year. We managed to get way better. So we're half the time it takes for us to release to production, way more stable, less time for us to address impediments. And if we only look at change failure rate, how often we have failures, that already puts us in the high performance group according to DevOps Research and Assessment Center. But going forward, like I mentioned, we want to go even next level. Next year, we want to get a bit more ambitious, deliver more often to production, react to problems earlier, and although let's say the difference between metrics is a bit ambitious, as we speak, we are almost getting there with the latest trends inside our engineering organization. 2021. We want to be in what the DevOps Research and Assessment Center, is the international research center for DevOps practices, calls as elite group. You release multiple times per day, customers don't notice any impediments, and any impediment that you have, any incident that you have, you fix it immediately. This is our progression so far, and plans going forward, and actions that we took so far to address them. This is an overview of how internally build and operate the services that our clients or our future clients and partners will be using. And I want to end up this presentation by a statement that describes our mission. That says that highly effective and skilled teams that are being provided with the right tools and robust application platform with clear objectives and principle of operation can perform fully autonomous, addressing important customer needs, solving real-life problems, very important, with high throughput and great stability. This is our, let's say, our mission inside the product organization.